welcome back, everybody, to the Just One More Level podcast. I am your co host, John,
And I'm Christian.
and this week we have played a little bit of a 3D adventure game called Stray. It's brand new onto the scene. Everybody's
Stray.
playing it, everybody's talking
Everyone.
about it. Yeah.
Everyone.
So,
PewDiePie, Markiplier. I actually have
PewDiePie,
no idea if any of these people have talked about it, but the entire
no,
internet. Name anyone on the internet and they've
Jack,
talked about it.
Jacksepticeye has played it so
Okay,
far.
there you go.
That
He's
I've
the
seen.
entire internet, basically,
He is.
anyways, right? Like,
He's the
so
entire
that's,
Irish internet, to my knowledge.
I mean, fair. Yeah,
That him and that
but,
channel that tries different types of alcohol, I'm
mm,
pretty sure is Irish YouTube. That's all that it is.
Irish. That's all of Irish YouTube. Everything
Yeah,
to come out
that's
of that
all of Irish
nation, just
YouTube. Yeah,
just
it's pretty small
Jacksepticeye
place.
and I mean, yeah, but don't they have a pretty large population? Anyway, Stray
Yeah,
though, the video game. So yes,
great.
it's
Yeah.
a wonderful 3D platformer
Uh-huh.
adventure title. I feel like that's its main thing, right? It's more about
3D
adventuring than
adventure.
true platforming or anything like that because I
Yeah.
mean there is platforming, but it's at like predetermined points.
Yes.
Right, like you can jump up
That's
on
something
things
that I
that it
like
wants you to
about
jump
it.
up onto and whatnot. But for
Yeah.
anyone who somehow has missed Stray, because it actually has been a bit of an internet sensation over the past week or so,
Yeah.
it's a game about a cat. You play as a
Hmm.
cat. You start out with a group of your friends, your family. That doesn't really say what they are or anything like that.
Right.
But you get separated from them. I'm sorry to tell
Your
you,
crew.
and you drop down into this kind of derelict city, a little steampunk-esque, right?
Yeah.
Post-apocalyptic, maybe. There's no
Spoilers.
humans. We know that much. But like, yeah, I mean, sorry, but there's spoilers that you find out in the first 15 minutes of the game. Like
Yes.
we're
Yeah.
not gonna spoil the entire game or anything like that, but
No.
I
No. No.
mean, we're talking about the game. We're gonna have to talk about the game a little
Right.
bit.
Right. 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 Yeah.
But
That's fair.
I,
So yeah. So you explore around this city, and you find little key items for puzzles that you have to solve as the cat, and you're being helped along by a strange little robot friend
mm,
that you find that directs you to your first main objective location.
can
But
I
um,
interject? I'm sorry. One
oh
of the
yeah.
things that I love about the game, actually,
Uh-huh.
before you meet the little robot dude, right? You get
Uh-huh.
in and you make it down into that city and you start seeing signs helping you out. Sometimes quite literally signs helping you out, like
Yeah.
pointing you in the right direction to go
Like
and
neon
whatnot.
signs
Yeah,
and
literal signs,
strings
right?
of light. Uh-huh.
And then there's cameras that are like watching you and things like that. And one of the things
Mhm.
about this game, since you play as a cat, there's a dedicated meow button. And I don't
Mhm.
know how many people have talked about this on the internet or anything like that, but one thing that I noticed is that as you're
Yeah.
going around, if you like look at one of those cameras and then meow, the camera shakes its head. Like, yes,
Mhm.
the security camera shakes its head yes to you, which I thought was really neat. But then I kept noticing more things. Like whenever you're standing somewhere and you're not 100% sure which direction to go, if you press the meow button, a sign
Mhm.
will like start blinking. It'll
Yeah.
flicker for a moment, kind of leading you which way to go. But it only
Uh-huh.
really does this whenever you press the meow button. So like this AI, this computer that's watching you or whatever, is kind of like guiding you along, trying to help you get to
Right.
them,
Mhm.
which I thought was really neat. And it also gives a use to the meow button other than it's a cat, it's cute to watch it meow. I mean,
Right.
like, other
Right.
than that,
Yeah.
it also gives a use to it. And I just think that's a
Mhm.
nice little world detail that they put in that they didn't need to because they put the signs there to make it pretty clear which direction to go, but flickering to draw your attention to it every time you press the meow button and things like that. It's a nice thing that they put in, and
Mhm.
I just want to point it out. I'm happy that
Oh
they
yeah.
did that.
Yeah. 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 So that yeah, I mean that's really good. What other kind of controls are there in this game, Christian? What else can you do as the cat?
You can walk, you
Right.
can run, you
Uh-huh.
can jump, you can
You
pick
can.
things up,
You
and
can.
then you can interact with different things in unique ways. Like it depends
Yes.
where you're at, right? So
Right.
like you might find a puddle, and at the puddle you can take a drink from it because you're a
Mhm.
cat. Of course you can.
Right.
You might find a
Right.
carpet and you can scratch the hell out of it because
Right.
come on, that's what cats do. It's one of
Right.
the many things that make them amazing. And then the
Mhm.
absolute best thing, John, can you guess what
Yeah.
my favorite interaction is that you can
Is
do?
it is it naps?
No, I see Rue said that in chat on Twitch, but no, not the naps. I
Okay.
actually haven't come across a spot where you can nap yet. I haven't made it that far into the game.
Oh,
But
okay.
my absolute favorite one is
Mhm.
whenever there's certain things, not everything, but there's certain things that'll be like near a ledge, and you can just use your little paw and just nudge it off the ledge,
Oh,
just kind
yeah,
of
knock it off the
knock it
ledge,
down.
yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. I
Well,
hate when
one of
cats do that in real life, but in
right,
video
yeah.
games, perfect.
Well, one of my favorite things about being able to knock things off the ledge is that there's tons of cans of paint just
Yes.
around
Yeah.
everywhere, and you can knock paint off the ledge. And even though this
Yeah.
game, we touched on it just a tiny bit, but to touch on it just a tiny bit more mid tangent here, this game, the way the camera controls, the camera is very fluid. It controls very freely, which is something that I really like, but your path is very guided. It
Yes.
feels almost reminiscent of a similar game that I played on the PS3 called Journey. Have you
Oh
ever
yeah,
played
sure.
Journey? Yeah.
Only a little bit, but I can see the comparison that you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels very reminiscent because Journey is very open, very free, and you control very smooth. The camera is very similar, but you're just this little guy in a cloak and a scarf, roaming this desert landscape that ends up turning into many different kinds of landscapes, and you uncover some sort of left behind mystery for no one to solve. And that is similar to what you're doing in this cat world. You're left behind in some sort of post-industrial, post-apocalyptic world that is populated seemingly by robots and lived in by these robots, except for where you start out with your cat friends, of course.
Mm, yep.
You seem to come from the outside, as they say. So, and anyway, coming back around to my tangent here, the way the camera controls and everything. So, in Journey, just like in this game, you're kind of locked into the segment in which you're playing. It kind of guides you along, almost like some of the good things you were talking about, Christian, with God of War. You know
Mm,
how
yeah.
the camera just kind of floats behind you and guides you through the path that they want you to take. The developers
Right.
have designs this game to look beautiful from all angles within this specific path that they want you to take. And I know a lot of people have good things to say about open world games, but Christian, when someone takes the care and dedication to design a world like these devs have, it's just as beautiful.
I've been making that argument for so long now. I love
Yeah,
a lot of open world games. There's a lot of really fun ones, man. I mean, Zelda Breath of the Wild is one of my top games from the past few years. Don't get me wrong.
right.
Open
Hmm.
world, awesome shit. But I
Hmm.
feel like so much emphasis has been put on open world games lately that
Yeah.
we've lost the magic of quarter slash level based games. Like you
Right.
can have a predetermined path in a game for the player to go down and still have it be an amazing experience. And from my
Hmm.
first hour or so with Stray, I would say it's one of them. Now, to be fair, I wouldn't personally quite put it up against God of War, right? It's a little bit more of like just because completely different genres. I
Oh no, you're
the
fine. I was
comparison you're
just talking
making
about
is yes, but
just your comments on God
yeah,
of War,
sure,
more
yeah,
so than the game. Your comments on God of War and how it guides you through a predetermined route through the level.
right, right,
And at the time, I believe we were comparing it to almost like Resident Evil, like fixed camera
right, yeah,
games.
yeah,
How that guides you through the experience, but
right.
this guides you through the experience more like I don't know,
With
kind of like
cues,
with cues, yeah.
little hints, little cues,
Little heads up.
little
Hey, go this way. Literally in the first part
yes,
of the game, neon signs that light up
yeah, yeah.
that tell you to go a specific
And then
direction.
later
So,
your little companion friend that starts nudging you
right.
towards things and whatnot. Um,
Feels more open than that.
one
Yeah.
thing about this game, and one of the reasons why I was hesitant to compare it to God of War, though, is at least for the first hour or so, it's
Mhm.
very much a walking simulator kind of game, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's a journey that you're being taken on in a slow pace with basically one path to follow. And
Right.
I would usually consider calling a game a walking simulator to be a negative thing, right? That has a negative
Right.
connotation to it to me personally. I don't
Sure. Like how
generally
people criticize Lord of the Rings for being 3 movies about walking.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, that's not the
Right,
point
yeah.
I was trying to make. But anyways, point is, this game though, it has enough intrigue in it for me, and then it does have some small puzzle elements and things, right? They're
Mhm,
not big, at least in the first couple of hours or first hour or so of the game. The puzzles aren't much, but like I remember right after getting your robot companion, you have to figure out a way to get out of the building that you're in, but the doors
mhm.
are locked and you have to find the code for the door, right? Just as like one example of a little puzzle that is in the game, and I'm sure there's probably some other examples. I just haven't come across them yet. And then just because it's coming up on screen
Mhm.
on Twitch here, another thing that I really liked about the game that I just want to point out: you
Mhm.
don't generally play video games as a small creature, right? You're usually a human or humanoid, something roughly the size of a of
Right.
an adult human. One of the things that's really neat about Stray is just experiencing the world as a small creature. The
Right.
fact that like whenever you first enter into the city proper, there's a set of metal bars blocking you from going in. But
Mhm.
oh wait, you're a cat. You can just
Right.
walk through those metal bars.
Right.
Whenever there's guide rails on ledges and things like that, you can
Uh-huh.
pass underneath of them or sit on the edge of them or whatever, because you're just this tiny little creature, and it's such a neat way to experience a world. Because
Right.
at least in games that I've played, I've never got to experience a full world like that. Maybe small sections of a game or something, but
Right.
not a full game. And I think that's another really interesting thing that this game does specifically.
So, what about the world that we're in, Christian? Now, like, from what I've experienced, all of the writing in this game, I'm not that experienced, but it's not real, right, Christian? It's not like
It's
real Japanese. What do they call it?
No,
Kanji. Excuse me if
yeah,
I'm
it's definitely not Japanese. I
no,
don't
but
know all languages in the world, but I'm fairly certain it's not Mandarin, it's not
don't
Japanese,
all languages.
nor is it
No,
Korean,
I
right?
was pretty certain as well that it wasn't any kind of real language, but I
Yeah.
believe that it's characters that have been invented to look
Right.
like an
And there
Asian
is
language.
English too, though. I would like
There
to point
is,
out. I
yeah.
didn't highlight it in the video as I was recording, but in the first play, the non-recorded play that I did of it, I noticed like on the wall, in the section that we just passed in the video on Twitch, um,
Uh-huh.
it said like "rip humans" something another, just
Right,
plain as day English right on the wall. So like there
right.
is English thrown in there too. I'm assuming that the English that's left behind was from the humans whenever they were there, but then I don't know why it would have said "rip
Could
humans,"
be.
and then
Right.
the other languages like stuff that the robots have put up, but I don't know. And that's part of what I find so intriguing about this game is the mystery.
Mhm.
What happened to this world? why
Exactly,
why
yeah.
are there robots everywhere but the humans are
Right,
all gone, and there's
right,
very little remnants of the humans even ever being here?
right, right, and it seems like it would have had to have been built by the humans, right? Because, like,
You would
for
think.
instance, the puzzle that you just went through,
Yeah,
in the video, if you guys are watching the video, why would robots need ventilation,
they
right?
can overheat too.
I guess, but,
But no, that's
like,
that's just me being facetious. I
right,
agree.
yeah,
This is
there's
very clearly a
tons.
city built for humans.
Right. Yeah, there's tons and tons and tons, and I know this is probably set decoration for your game, but there's tons of air conditioners and
Mhm.
ventilation systems all over the city that you can jump on and interact with as the cat. So, that means that there needed to be climate control and pretty
Right.
serious climate control, which would make sense if you had a ton of body heat heating up these buildings, right?
Mhm.
So I, I'm inclined to think, yeah, the city was built for humans initially. It was taken over by robots. At some point, I'm guessing maybe some kind of Matrixy plot, but it's not. It's more of like a cyberpunk kind of future, because like it's set in the post-apocalypse and there are flat screens and
Mhm.
like big light up things, but there's also a ton of CRT monitors and
Yeah.
old computer towers and different
You
things like
know,
that laying around.
honestly, what it kind of makes me think of, we come from a rural area of America, right? A fairly
Uh-huh.
sparse area, but it
Right.
kind of makes me think of like the viral posts of extremely dense cities you see from real life, like
Yes.
extremely populated areas of China or India or any
or
of
Japan,
the
or yeah.
right,
Hmm.
yeah, the places that are extremely densely populated. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of that, and I can only assume that's what they were basing the city off of. But
Right.
you have your people that are a little more well off, and they have some nice things, maybe a little bit more space. Then you have your people who maybe aren't quite as well off, and their stuff's a little bit older, and things
Right.
like that. But then just also the design of the city with so many, like you said, so many air conditioners, just air
Hmm.
conditioners everywhere. But I
Yeah.
mean, again, in a lot of those big cities, you do see that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
videos of people walking down the alleys and things of them. There are just air conditioners freaking everywhere, like, and it's just this constant
Yep.
loud hum as you're going around. Now, the air conditioners here aren't running, so you don't hear them or anything. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's very. That's actually one of the only problems I have with the game.
Okay.
Kind of leads into that. The game does give me a little bit of a sense of the uncanny valley every now and then,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like the world and the cat are so close to something that seems real, but then
Right.
every once in a while the animation will play out in a way that just looks a little wrong, or there will be a little hitch
Yeah.
in the system, or the layout of something just won't quite make sense, and
Well,
it's
I have a
like,
question for you because I know your gaming habits. Did you turn the motion blur all the way off?
yes.
See, that's
Yes, I
why.
did.
That's why. Because
I
I
hate it.
tried that. I
I
tried
had it
that.
on for the beginning of the
I had
recording here, and
I had to
everything
turn
looked
it
bad. And I was like, why does everything look bad? And then I
right.
remembered motion blur and turned it off, and it was like, this looks
Right.
better.
See, it does look better for me with low motion blur,
Mm,
but not with it off.
I
I
hate
because
motion blur so
it's a
much.
toggleable setting, and I have agreed with you with the video games. I have
Hmm.
definitely agreed that with when it comes to video games, I think the motion blur is too much. It's too much of an effect. It doesn't need to look like a movie when it's a video game. I
I
think
don't
if you
think a
want to make
movie
it
needs to look like a movie. I think a movie only needs
fair,
motion blur because they choose an ass frame rate to play movies back with, so
right,
everything would look choppy if it wasn't blurred to hell and back. But
right,
sorry, that's my own personal thing. I
that,
just hate motion blur.
that's fine.
Anyways.
But what I was going to say. Oh, you died during this part. I didn't die during that
Not
part.
when I was playing my first time around, but
Oh, you just
here
wanted
I
to know what
did.
it looked like. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I got distracted by the visual representation we
it's
have.
fine.
If you
You're good.
if you like listening to the podcast on your podcast provider of choice, please check out our YouTube channel now.
Right. Or
um,
Twitch, whatever.
right.
Yep. But
So
continue.
anyway, uh, so the cat and
Hmm.
the motion blur is what we were talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
So it was on, and I was like, is that a bunch of motion blur? I was like, I don't really want all the motion blur. So I turned it off, and I was like, oh wow, hey, no. It was it was too it was too much. Everything was crisp all at the same time.
Hmm.
Like there was no longer like a soft focus in the background. For some reason, I lost that when the motion blur turned off, and I was just like, this is not. It looks
That
like
sounds like it may be a problem with the game because I mean, your
it could
motion
be
blur being turned off shouldn't affect the bokeh or bokeh or whatever the hell. Whenever you're focused on one thing but everything else is kind of blurred.
Luca.
Like the motion blur should only affect when the camera is moving. Everything
Okay,
blurs
okay.
basically,
Right.
but I don't know though. I
I
didn't
well, that's
notice
what I
that.
was testing, the camera movements. It looked
Okay.
uncanny,
Okay.
like you said. When
Okay.
I was moving the camera around with the complete absence of motion blur, it looked
Hmm.
more uncanny.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to bring it around to, because you mentioned that it was kinda uncanny valley, the way things move. I think they nailed it with the cat animations
Oh, I
personally.
mean, don't
I
get me
think
wrong. I think it's the best cat movement I've ever seen in a
sure,
game.
yeah.
But little
Oh,
things
okay, we're gonna yeah, okay, yeah.
like little
I
things
see
though
what
where
you mean.
like they jump down from a ledge, right?
Uh-huh.
Everyone like it feels almost like they drop too quickly sometimes, like
That's fair.
gravity's not quite right. And then I've
Oh, it
never
could be a different
seen a
planet.
cat jump from like an extremely high height, but
Uh-huh.
both of my cats, whenever they're jumping down, they don't usually crawl halfway down a wall and then jump off of it. They usually just jump off of the wall onto the
No,
ground. But
mine does.
nearly yours crawls halfway down and then jumps off, or just jumps
Well,
straight off?
she likes to get on top of the fridge a lot because she
Yeah,
gets on our counter and then up on
right.
top of the fridge. So she'll like like put her
Pause.
paws,
Yeah.
her front paws on like the edge of the freezer and like lower herself all the way down until she's level, and then reach down with her paws down onto the surface, the front surface of the freezer, and
And then like
then
kick off,
she'll
which is
yeah, and
how
then
they
she'll like
always have it
spring
do in the
off.
game. But
Yeah.
it's something about that just is off. Like I said, I mean, I imagine my cats would from an extremely high height, but I've only ever seen them jump a maximum of like, I don't know, 4 foot down or anything,
Oh,
something like
really?
that.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
like then I never see it, and it's just something about the animation doesn't quite look right to me every time they do it.
That's
I don't
fair. I
know
mean, it's
quite
not
what it
real.
is, but
And
I
they
mean,
don't
yeah,
the
but
cats
I'm
are
saying that's kind of
stylized
lends to the
too.
uncanny valley thing, right?
The
Because
uncanny valley, yeah.
that's the whole thing with the uncanny valley. Something looks extremely real, which this game in many ways does look very realistic in many
Yeah.
many ways. Like you said, the movement is fluid. It's very well done, very well animated. But then
Mhm.
every once in a while, for me at least, there's just these little hitches of things, and it just looks odd. Like right here, whenever they're jumping down these set of pipes, some of those jumps don't actually look all that high. Yet every single time they get to the ledge, they stop. Then they like snap to having their paws on the like halfway down the ledge, and then instant or and then a pause, and then a second later they're just like very quickly falling towards their next destination. It's just
That's
it's a
fair.
little
Yeah.
hitchy. It's not quite as
Eh,
smooth as like the other animations and things. And
needs a little tightened up. Mhm.
that's where the uncanny
A little greasy.
valleyness is coming from for me. But
Yep.
again, don't get me wrong, the game as a whole looks amazing. Like it really
Oh,
really
yeah.
does.
It does. It does. That's one of my final topics to talk about. The lighting in this
Mm,
game is very well done. Like something that we discussed before the podcast. We didn't know whether or not it was real, bona fide ray tracing, new age tech, or if it was something different. You know what I mean? Their own engine that they made. But whatever it is, it's very well done. I'm
mm,
noticing something about the water now that we're watching the playback. It's stylized as well.
mm,
Everything in the world is, now that I'm looking at it. But it just looks so, it's so detailed and it's so well done. Like the color palette of this valley, it looks like you're in some kind of like aquifer, maybe some kind of water system that moved
sure.
water around.
Yeah.
You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like some
Yeah.
maybe some kind of storm collection. You got your basin over there with the water, and then these big
You know,
pipes pumping water up and down everywhere. And that's why I'm thinking maybe it's so green around here because it collects rain, and that's why greenery grows. But
the thought that
sorry,
just
go ahead.
crossed my mind, you mentioning everything being very stylized,
Hmm.
and it didn't really pop into my head until literally just now. It kind of
Hmm.
makes me think if like a Japanese studio like Studio Ghibli, someone like
Oh
them,
yeah,
if
yeah.
they suddenly decided to, instead of their normal art style, if they were like, we want to do realism, but we want it to look like one of our worlds, right? That's
Hmm.
I can kind of right. It looks better than real life. The whole game, no matter, because in real
It
life,
does. Yeah,
photographers can take amazing photos and make the wherever they're at look absolutely outstanding. But you need a
yeah.
professional photographer lining things up, getting the lighting just right and whatnot.
Right.
In this
Yeah.
game, no matter where you're at, no matter which angle the camera's at, the how you, I mean, you can't affect the lighting in any way, right? It just is what it is in the
Hmm.
game. It always looks like it's a professionally framed, or not framed, because I mean, you could be looking at something stupid. But anyways, you get the point. It always just looks like that better than real image that you get from something like a very well animated uh piece of
Right.
film, from a professional photographer or
So
something like that.
comparing it to film for a second, I know that you're not as versed with the Star Wars films as I am, but there is a
Oh
Star
no,
Wars
not at
film.
all.
There's a Star Wars film called Star Wars. No, it's called Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Oh, of
It's
course.
it's divisive. Some people like it, some people hate it, but that isn't what matters right now. In it, there is a character named Grand Moff Tarkin. He was in the original Star Wars film from '77, as you may
Hmm.
remember. He's the grumpy guy on the Death Star that orders Darth Vader around. So
Vaguely, okay.
the actor that played Grand Moff Tarkin died a number
Hmm.
of years ago in the '90s, I believe. So they obviously had to recast or something, and they chose or something. They chose
Okay.
to mask a dead person's face onto a living
Okay.
actor for
Sure,
this
sure.
performance and
Okay.
to animate his face with CGI. So, now, like you said, it was the best possible version that I've ever seen of them doing something like that,
Right.
but
Okay.
it's still not quite there.
Okay.
It's big uncanny valley territory, but here's the kicker. This is why I think that that Stray works so much better than the Star Wars, because in the Star Wars they started the scene out. I was shocked, but I was okay with it because
Mhm.
the character was facing away from us. You
Mm.
could see a faint reflection of him in the window that he was facing,
Okay.
and it looked great. It was spot on. I was shook because whoever was doing the voice did a great impression. You know what I mean? It was so well done, and I was like, "Oh wow, I can't believe they did that." And then he turned around, and I was like, "I can't believe they did that. Are you kidding me? Why
Well,
have
I
him turn around?
I have to
Why
imagine that it's
pull the
because
curtain
like
back?" You
I have
know?
to imagine because like in Star Wars everything else is real, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously there's CG effects and things like that,
Right.
but you get the point. And Stray, everything like you said is slightly stylized. So
Right.
I would attribute it to that maybe why
Yes.
Stray, while it does have its little moments,
Right.
generally feels pretty authentic.
Yes. 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 Yeah, yes, it does. I give Stray all of the praise. I
Mhm.
highly recommend that anybody that wants to play a great game check it out. It's very
Same.
easy to play. It's very short to play if you're not trying to run around and do all of the side things.
Right.
Um, if you're just running the main story, I know it's less than 10 hours, if
Yeah,
not
I
less
mean, the
than
review that
7.
I watched said 4 to 5 should be the average for most people, but it really
Gotcha.
does depend on what how much time you spend digging around.
Right.
Essentially, like it's gonna depend heavily on
Right.
that.
Right. So one last thing to kind of wrap it up. We didn't we touched on it a tiny bit, but this world, I have
Yes.
theories.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Do you have theories?
Not really, not yet,
I
to
have a
be
theory.
honest with you. But go ahead.
So we have this world full of robots, but they're not normal robots. They're anthropomorphized robots, right?
Okay.
They have human qualities and characteristics. They dress in clothes. They practice social etiquettes, like there's a robot that you get introduced to in the game that is wearing like a Japanese cone-shaped hat and like a robe, right? And he has like a staff, and he's called the Guardian. He's protecting a village of other robots that all run away from you in fear because they think that you're these little mutant they think that you're one of those little mutant things running around that attack the cat.
Okay.
Um, so did you make it this far into the game?
No,
Okay.
I
So
got the robot, got out of the room, and then
okay.
that's where I had to call it quits the first time
It's pretty
that
much
I played.
right. It's pretty much right after that. Because I played an hour for the podcast.
Right.
So and I was trying to gun it as much as I'm capable of gunning it as a
See,
person.
I played about an
So
hour, but the exact opposite. I took
oh, okay.
as low of a time as I possibly could,
Oh, okay,
basically.
gotcha. But yeah, I tried to gun it as much as I could. So your little robot friend, along with everything that I mentioned, all the robots acting like humans and dressing in clothes and all that kind of stuff. Your little robot friend, one of the main core elements of the game that you're searching for, other than key items to solve puzzles, is memories for your robot friend.
Oh, see, yeah,
Your
no,
robot,
I had no idea about
yeah.
that. I
So
actually haven't even seen another robot besides the one that's like already dead. And then
yeah, yeah.
obviously the little friend that you get. Those are
Which
the only two robots I've even seen so
I have
far.
a theory about him too. I think that your cat character, I think our cat shut it off. I don't think that it's too perfect. It's too perfectly timed. It
uh,
paws at its face and then it shuts down. I think that the cat shuts it off. But anyway, um So your robot friend has memories. That's part of your inventory system when you first get
Okay.
your inventory. Your inventory consists of an inventory for key items and then an inventory for memories that you
Okay.
collect for your little robot friend throughout the game. And your little robot friend describes having these memories as something that's curious to him. He doesn't understand quite why he has them because he's just a little helper robot guy that worked for a scientist in a laboratory. So I think that human consciousness has been downloaded into robots to escape the coming apocalypse.
I actually considered that myself,
Yes.
specifically for the little dude. Like I said,
Mhm,
excuse me, I have no idea about the other ones, but for the little dude, I almost wondered if that was
mhm,
the case, because small spoiler for anyone, whenever you actually like revive the little robot dude, essentially, like he draws you into
uh-huh,
his house, his home, whatever, but his consciousness, his AI, whatever you want to call it, is trapped into a computer, or is
mhm.
trapped on a computer. You have to
Which
find
is
a
how
little
it's able to
robot to,
communicate with you
yeah,
throughout the city.
yeah, exactly. And then you have to find a little robot host for him to live in. And I got a little bit of a uploading your consciousness kind of vibe to it, you
Right.
know. So
Because
I
he's
was kind of wondering a similar thing myself, to be honest.
yeah, because it says when you first meet your robot, you have to find your robot head and bring it
Yes.
to the
Yeah.
workstation that you have to power up. So it says it says something like need body or find my body in the next room.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely the vibe, and it's able to communicate with you throughout this whole city. But why can't it talk to the cat, Christian? That's what I'd like to know. So you're a cat. You're a normal, average cat for all intents and purposes. You meow. You
Right.
don't talk. You're
Mm-hmm.
not Sly Cooper, right?
Right.
You're
I
just
was
a cat.
curious about that as well myself. So
Right, but so the robot not only is the cat able to understand what seems to be perfect English for us and understand arrows and light
right.
up
Right.
signs, but the
Presumably, at
robot
least. Right.
presumably, right? But the robot is literally able to communicate with the cat. And the
Mm-hmm.
cat's meow doesn't just get acknowledgement from the cameras. It literally makes electricity happen. That's what I think. I think
Oh.
that the cat
So you're
is
saying it's
somehow
a cyborg? Is what
yeah,
you're saying. It's
some
not a
kind of
real
cyborg.
cat. It's
Right.
okay. Okay. Interesting. It's a neat cat also
Right.
understands QTEs, one of
Cat
the viewers
also
just said.
understands CTs, yeah. That
Quick
that's
time
the whole
events, yeah.
combat system. If you're worried about that in the game, I know specifically my wife does not like games with high combats other than Evil Dead for some reason, which is nothing but combat. See, watch it here in the cutscene, Christian. It's gonna turn that thing off. It
See,
turns its face
but
off.
like
You hit
there's
triangle.
nothing there. There's no switch or anything for it to be hitting. I personally think that section right there is just,
Mhm.
I mean, you see it in movies all the time, just convenient thing
Right, yeah.
for the interest factor, or whatever. I'm sure there's like a term for it or whatever, but it's something
Mhm.
that's there just for the sake of being there,
Right.
almost, just
Mhm.
because. I think that, but I can get behind the maybe the cats are androids sort of thing, maybe.
Yeah.
But if that's the
I'm
case
having
though,
fun theorizing as I'm
if
playing the
that's the
game.
case, my only problem with that theory is, why are the humans so primitive in comparison, right? Because the cats are very realistic
Mhm.
androids, if in this theory, but like the
The
humans are
robots?
very basically, yeah,
The
yeah,
why the robots are so basic in comparison to
yeah,
the
to the
amazing cat?
cats, yeah.
Well,
Because you would
because
think, like, if they were building on, like, if they were starting up Android tech because they saw this coming apocalypse or something, I can
right.
understand them making small creatures before they move on to the big ones or whatever. But
Uh-huh.
why would they make a feature complete with upgrades cat
Uh-huh.
model
Yeah.
before making realistic humanoid models?
Easy answer, Christian. Because they made cats to be pets when there's were still humans that lived in the city. Because
Maybe,
nothing organic could live inside of the city.
maybe.
You only see plants and foliage outside of the city. The only thing organic you see in the city are the little monsters that kill you. These
Right,
little
which may
one-eyed
or may not
creatures.
even be real. But
Right.
well, I mean, not real, but
And
organic.
their hive minds.
Right.
they're spreading over the city like some kind of fungus. You can see it later on when you do like the little something you can interact with is like a little bucket on a string to zip line between point A to point B.
Mhm.
And when you do that during one of the sections, you can see this whole city, the under part of the city has been taken over by some kind of red breaching fungus that's growing all over the city. So those little monster squeaky toys are organic and they're here to fuck up everybody's day. And
Or
they and
they
the
were the
cat
cause of the apocalypse. They were created to upgrade things into machines, right? But
okay.
their programming got fucked up, and for some reason, they started coming after the humans. And this is a long way of me saying we are quickly running out of time, sir.
I'm just I'll theorize about Stray until I beat the game and then everything
I
will
think
be
I
answered, I'm
think
sure.
honestly I can see what you're saying being
Yeah,
true. It's
yeah.
just I have questions if it is, that's all. But
Oh,
I guess
sure.
that's just more of a reason to play just one more level, which I will certainly be doing.
Yes. Yes. So that yeah, that wraps up everything with the podcast and with Stray.
One
I
more
would
thing.
also play just one more level, Christian. I would
One more
also
thing.
just play one more level.
Really
Yeah,
quick thing.
sure.
Sound design is excellent. That's all I
Oh
want to
yeah,
say. Yes.
stand out.
But now we can wrap it up. Actually
All
wrap
right.
it up.
So everybody, thank you so much for watching. We always appreciate you watching because you don't have to, but you do. If you want to know where else you can find us, check out the description down below the YouTube channel or on your podcast provider of choice. And you can find out where we do our personal stuff and where else to find the podcast. But
Yep,
until
yep.
next time, thank you so much, everybody, for listening, watching, subscribing, whatever it is you do. Be kind to each other out there. Thank you.
Yep. Have a good night, morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. And like John said, just be kind to each other, man. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.